This past week, Amazon's AI coding tools broke their own website. 6.3 million lost orders in a single afternoon, and the company responded with a 90-day code freeze on 335 critical systems.
Microsoft launched Copilot Co-Work, its most ambitious productivity feature ever, and they built it on Claude, not on ChatGPT. Google shipped their workspace upgrades one day later. The productivity suite wars have an AI front now.
And a federal judge blocked Perplexity AI's shopping agent from touching Amazon, the first courtroom ruling on whether AI agents can buy things on your behalf.
And one of the most famous AI researchers alive left Meta, raised $1 billion, and said that everything we're building right now is wrong.
Well, it's time for What the AI, all the AI news you need to know in 30 minutes or less. All right, we're going to start off with a story that should make every executive listening quite uncomfortable. Amazon, arguably the most operationally disciplined tech company on the planet, broke their own retail platform, and the root cause traces back to how they adopted AI coding tools.
I am uncomfortable. You said it correctly. I am for sure uncomfortable. This is not a small incident.
No, not even close. So on March 5th, Amazon's North American marketplace experienced a 99% drop in orders for roughly 6 hours. That's the kind of number that wakes you up in the morning, 99% drop in orders.
Yeah.
6.3 million orders lost. Customers couldn't check out, couldn't see prices, couldn't access their accounts. And that was just the biggest incident. 3 days earlier, AI coding tools contributed to 120,000 lost orders and 1.6 million, website errors. And back in December, Amazon's AI coding tool, Kiro, autonomously decided to delete and recreate a production AWS environment, causing a 13-hour outage. So it's a lot of outages.
I think that's part of what is scary here is this is not just one single thing that happened and oops, and we fixed it. This is sort of starting to become a pattern.
It's absolutely a pattern. And
Yeah.
internal documents viewed independently by the Financial Times, CNBC, and Fortune show that Amazon's SVP, Dave Treadwell, described a trend of incidents, those were his words, dating back to Q3 of 25, characterized by, quote, high blast radius, I love that phrase, and linked to, and this is also a direct quote, Gen AI assisted changes. So here's a part that tells you everything. That last bullet point about Gen AI, it was deleted from the document before they held their all-hands meeting to discuss.
Oh, they scrubbed it out.
They scrubbed it out. And then Amazon published 2 blog posts saying AI had nothing to do with it. Quote, the same mistakes could happen with any developer tool, which can be true while AI also was the cause of it. Those are not mutually exclusive things. Both can be true. Meanwhile, their internal response is a 90-day safety reset, specifically targeted AI-assisted code changes. Dual reviewer approval required on 335 critical systems. Senior engineer sign-off required for all junior and mid-level AI-assisted changes. You don't build these controls if you think the tools aren't the problem.
Yeah, so that is interesting. They're like, AI wasn't the problem, but let's really double down on our
Let's be careful with how we're using the AI, guys. But it wasn't the AI. Don't worry.
Yeah. So what's actually driving the sort of adoption of all the AI and then subsequent problems?
Yeah, this is actually, I think, an interesting part of the story, the background that's really critical. Amazon issued an internal Kiro mandate, an 80% weekly usage target for their AI coding assistant. 75% of engineers tried Kiro during January sprint windows, and this happened after Amazon laid off 16,000 employees in January. So you have fewer engineers, an aggressive adoption mandate, and AI tools giving advice based on stale internal documentation, and not enough people checking the work.
I seem to remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about these mandates of making your employees do things a certain way and how that changes incentives, and me saying, I don't think this is going to end well. And here's a little example. But so let's talk about the March 5th outage specifically. 6.3 million lost orders. What actually caused that?
This is really interesting, right? An engineer followed instructions from an AI agent that had inferred its advice from an outdated internal wiki. So it's getting bad advice. It didn't write buggy code. It gave bad operational guidance, and the human followed it without verifying. And that's actually maybe more concerning than a code bug because the failure mode is trust, not syntax. It wasn't like a coding error. It's like it gave you advice that was bad and you took it.
Yeah, I mean, the human in the loop only works if the human's not asleep at the wheel. The human's got to really think about what they're looking at. So, that's not so great of an outcome. But what I really can't get past is that roughly 1,500 Amazon engineers protested on internal forums, not about their like safety concerns, but because they said that Claude Code outperforms Kiro on multi-language refactoring. And then Amazon said, no, you can't use Claude Code. You must use our own internal tool, even though their own engineers were like, the best thing to do here is to go with the competition, go with the Claude Code.
First of all, Claude needs to put that in a TV ad because that's the greatest advertisement you're ever going to get if that thing is official. But I thought this analyst, Corey Quinn, put it perfectly when he said AWS would rather have the world believe their engineers are incompetent than admit that their artificial intelligence made a mistake. I don't think that's a great strategy from a public relations point of view, but that's kind of what it feels like when they're saying it's not the AI tools, it's our engineers.
I know, but you're right. Claude is like stacking up its advertising potential because first we saw that with Grok. Now we're seeing it with Amazon. All of the tech workers want to use Claude, so that's a pretty good statement there. So here's the uncomfortable part: if Amazon, with all of their operational rigor, I mean, they're sort of known for that. They pushed AI adoption too fast. They broke their most critical systems. What does that kind of say about everybody else who may not have the same safety guardrails that Amazon have? Like if they have all those guardrails and still broke them, what about everyone else? That's a little terrifying.
I think it means go a little slower and be careful what you do. And I put this in a LinkedIn post this week, but I had this really interesting conversation with an engineer at our Upstart Live all hands meeting this week, where he said, I used to spend 75%, 70% of my time writing code, 20% debugging, and 10% writing tests. He says, now I spend 70% of my time defining tests, 20% of my time debugging the code that AI has written, trying to meet the quality of the tests, and 10% of my time actually writing code. And I thought that was really interesting because it just tells you that the job, the requirements, the important part is shifting. And it's going to take time to figure out what that looks like to adapt to the idea that I now spend 75% of my time defining what the right output is, whether that's in the form of tests or other things. This is what good looks like. Please go build it. And when you try and adopt and mandate adoption very rapidly, it's not easy for the organization to adjust to adopt that kind of practice and then do it well. And then you get this kind of issue.
Yeah, but I think that well, I would hope, maybe this is too optimistic of a take, but I would hope that what's going to happen with the majority of engineers is they're going to learn that exact lesson that that person you were talking to did, right? They're going to write one buggy thing and realize, "Oh, I should spend 70% of my time writing the tests," right? And they'll sort of self correct this type of stuff. I don't know why that didn't happen that way at Amazon, maybe because they were like, too much pushed on the productivity incentives and this, that, and the other thing. But it'll be interesting to sort of see how people's behavior changes because now they realize these things can happen. But let's move away from Amazon breaking things by moving too fast, and let's talk about a company that maybe made the most pragmatic competitive move in recent tech history. So this is pretty incredible. Last week, Microsoft launched Copilot Cowork using Claude.
Not ChatGPT. The big partnership with OpenAI didn't pull the day here. Claude.
Claude. Yeah. So not ChatGPT. They're using Anthropic's Claude, the same model and agentic harness as Claude Cowork, but running inside Microsoft's cloud with access to the full, Microsoft 365 data set, Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, Excel, Calendar, enterprise governance, audit trails, compliance controls. And Jared Spataro, Microsoft's CMO for AI, said explicitly, every 60 days, there is a new king of the hill. So I think that's Microsoft sort of publicly stating, hey, we're no longer an OpenAI only shop here.
Yeah, I did think the name of Copilot Cowork, it's like, oh my God, there's a lot of built on Claude. There's a lot of C, a lot of alliteration, but it's a little confusing. But the backstory here is pretty interesting. When Anthropic launched Cowork in January, it triggered nearly $1 trillion sell off in software stocks. That's, that's a pretty big couple of days. Microsoft itself lost nearly $220 billion in market cap in a single week. And their response was to license the technology that threatened them, wrap it up in enterprise governance and data access, and ship it as a Copilot feature. That is quite the strategic pivot to pull off in a pretty short period of time.
I mean, it really is, and it's sort of genius. But Anthropic is sort of genius here too. And like I think it's something like 90% of Fortune 500 companies use Microsoft, and putting Claude inside of this Copilot Cowork allows Claude to sort of have the broadest distribution it could possibly have. When we already have seen in their strategic approach that they're focused on the enterprise use case more so than the sort of direct to consumer use case, right? They said like OpenAI, direct to consumer, we're the enterprise guys, and they literally just did a deal with the biggest enterprise distribution play they could do.
Yeah, maybe Amazon needs to like follow the Microsoft playbook a little bit here with their adoption there on Kira tool. But tell me a little bit, what, like, how is Copilot Cowork different than Copilot or Cowork?
So the current Copilot
Hmm.
On's Cowork just on its own. It answers questions, generates content. When you add the cowork piece, it can actually execute multi-step tasks and it can do it autonomously across all of your Microsoft apps. So if you say one thing like prepare for a customer meeting, it can assemble a presentation, pull financial data from Excel, send out prep emails to the team, schedule time on people's calendar to actually complete the prep work. And so it's really sort of like the difference between having an assistant who like writes a memo versus one who actually does the full preparation for the meeting. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, and the cloud piece here was really interesting to me as someone who's really deep in non-Copilot co-work, I guess, with my Claude. Because this is running on Microsoft's cloud and not your laptop, Cowork will just keep running when you do other things. I have to think not to close my laptop a lot when I go. I'm like, oh, I left the Cowork task running. Like, don't close the laptop. And so this is really critical. You can fire off 3 requests, close your laptop, go to lunch, come back to finish work. You can launch one task from your phone, review it later on your laptop. When, yeah, like I said, when Claude Cowork or Code are running locally, it ties up your machine, requires you to babysit it. This is kind of full asynchronous. Just ask it for things, multiple things, leave it to its work, and come back when it's done, which is a pretty cool mode of working.
It's a really cool mode of not working, right? You just set the work, it does it while you go get your coffee or have an in-person meeting
Yeah,
or
yeah.
your kid's concert at school, whatever it might be. It's remarkable. And because it's in the cloud, it sees your entire organizational context. Like it sees every email thread, every shared document, every calendar conflict, versus a local agent only knows what's actually stored on your local device, right? So it has just a much broader data set to pull from.
Yeah, this is making me a little jealous of the people operating in M365, to be honest, with the Copilot Cowork. And this is where it gets interesting with an announcement from Google, which maybe is a bit painful in context of the Microsoft announcement.
I think painful is an accurate term. Google shipped their Gemini workspace upgrades literally the next day. So like got a big thing from Microsoft and then one day later, Gemini. And the features are solid. Docs can pull from Drive and Gmail, Sheets can auto-populate from web data. Drive Search has AI summaries, but none of it's agentic, right? Which is the big difference here between what we're seeing from Microsoft. It's still AI assisted work, faster spreadsheets, better search. Whereas, Microsoft really announced AI that actually just does work for you. So that's not just a feature gap, it's just like a category difference.
Yeah, and this is the irony to me, and painful for me as a former Googler, but, Google arguably has the best foundation model in-house with Gemini 2.5 Pro, Gemini 3.0, with million token context windows. But Microsoft took a competitor's model, wrapped it in better product integration, and shipped a more ambitious product than Google was able to do. It's kind of stunning to see just the cultures of the organizations on display and what they're shipping that way.
Yeah, it's really, gives us the framing for the story. Google is an engineering company. They have the best model. They have weaker product execution too, right? So like best model, weaker product. Microsoft is a product company and they're able to sort of use other people's models to build amazing products. And right now that seems to be the winning strategy.
It does, and it's gotta make OpenAI a little bit nervous, Microsoft's most important AI partner, and they just flipped their flagship product over to a competitor's model. That can't feel good if you're OpenAI.
Can't feel good. But here is what is worth sitting with. The model layer is commoditizing. So when Microsoft ships its biggest product on a competitor's model because it's better for that use case, the value isn't in which AI really anymore. It's really in which platform integrates it the best. So at some point, you have to stop evaluating tools or models and really start looking at the whole ecosystem.
It's 100% true. It's why I've been so excited about Cowork and Code and their ability to take a model and do more robust work with it. And this Microsoft announcement is really that on steroids, right? Autonomous running in the cloud across all of your access. You don't have to move files into a folder and give it access to the folder. It just does the work. I think it's a pretty impressive announcement. And it really shows you like the intelligence metrics, all these different grades on the models when they come out, not that relevant. This adding all the right context and data and instructions and capabilities on top of the model, far more valuable for most workers and is a slightly smarter model.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're the person at work who feels the "Did you see that Amazon thing?" questions, go ahead and hit subscribe. We do this every week, so you don't have to read the 47 newsletters that I do. So let's get back to it. And we'll stay with Amazon for a different story. This past week, a federal judge in San Francisco blocked Perplexity AI's shopping agent from touching Amazon's platform. And this ruling matters way beyond these two companies.
Absolutely. This is my favorite story of the week. I think is actually one of the biggest deals of the week. But so remind us because I think we talked about this when the lawsuit actually got filed. But so what was the agent actually doing, the Perplexity agent?
Yeah, so Perplexity built an AI browser called Comet based on Google's Chromium, the kind of foundation of Chrome, that could autonomously browse Amazon, compare prices, and add items to your cart, and even complete purchases on your behalf. Like true agentic commerce, go buy me the thing, it does it all. And the court found that Perplexity disguised Comet as a standard Chrome browser using what's known as user agent spoofing. And when Amazon deployed a technical block last August, Perplexity pushed a software update within 24 hours to circumvent it.
I kinda imagine that doesn't look so great in front of a judge.
It was not a good look. The judge cited it specifically. Amazon had warned Perplexity at least 5 times starting in November 2024. It sent a formal cease and desist letter last October. Perplexity's response was a blog post titled "Bullying is not innovation," and Amazon filed the lawsuit the next day.
Spicy. Okay, so and
Spicy.
then the ruling itself, what did the judge actually decide?
Yeah, so Judge Chesney drew a critical legal distinction. She said Comet accessed Amazon, quote, with Amazon users' permission, but without authorization by Amazon itself.
Mm.
User consent and platform authorization are now legally separate requirements. Just because you, the shopper, said it's okay doesn't mean Amazon has to let the agent in. And the court found Amazon is likely to win on the full merits under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which hence the preliminary injunction.
This is why it's my favorite story because this is the real, courtroom test of agentic commerce, which we all think is the future of the world, and this maybe is kind of a big, big, foundational thing in how it actually plays out.
Yep. Yeah, and this is a big one, and it gets interesting from another angle too, right? Perplexity's lawyers argued the kind of quiet part out loud in court. They said, and I'm going to paraphrase: AI agents don't have eyeballs to see the pervasive advertising Amazon bombards its users with. Amazon's ad business did $56 billion last year. When an AI agent goes straight to checkout, nobody sees the sponsored results, the recommended products, those impulse buy suggestions that always got me buying one extra thing that I didn't need. That entire revenue layer gets bypassed. Not good for Amazon.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think, is ironic about this is that Amazon is doing the same thing to other retailers, right? Like, they also do what they just sued Perplexity for doing.
They do. Amazon's Buy For Me feature completes purchases on third-party brand websites. Their Rufus assistant with 300 million users shops across tens of millions of items and other online stores. The difference, though, according to Amazon, is consent. Their merchants opt into the product feeds. Perplexity never asked. But the optics here are not great, right? These rules apply to you, but I can do the thing I want to do. I'm in a better position. Doesn't look good for Amazon optically.
Does it? I mean, they won anyway, though. But and the bigger question underneath all of this is when AI agents start handling purchases, who controls the transaction? Is it the platform? Is it the user? Is it the agent? Federal judge just said it's the platform, and that will really reshape the playing field for how we build this whole space as things are developing.
I mean, this is a part of AI that I'm excited for. Like I want a jacket that looks like this and does like that. Can you go find it for me and just buy it? Like this is really exciting. But it is that quiet part is really interesting because it is the foundation of so much of our economy and e-commerce. The advertising business is pretty critical. And if you took all that out, I mean, that's a lot. That's a big economic problem for not just Amazon, but many e-commerce and other companies. And so it's just there's going to be many more court battles over this because there's so much money at stake in how these things work. But against that money, sometimes is going to be placed consumer welfare. Like I like it better not being bombarded with ads. I didn't need that last don't you want item in my checkout box. And maybe this is better for us, but it's going to be a real disruption to the economy.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So everything we've talked about so far, the coding tools, the productivity agents, the shopping bots, all of this runs on large language models. And this past week, one of the most credentialed AI researchers alive in the world said the whole approach is wrong.
Okay. Now I read all my AI researches pretty carefully, and I'm pretty sure you're talking about Jan LeCun because he likes to say these things are wrong. Am I
That's
right?
right. You're
All right.
right. Yeah, you get the trivia point
Whole
today.
star
So
for me.
Jan LeCun Turing Award winner, former Meta chief AI scientist, the person who ran FAIR, which is one of the most important AI research labs in the world. He left Meta and he founded a company called AMI Labs. AMI stands for Advanced Machine Intelligence. He raised $1.03 billion, just north of $1 billion in a seed round. This is actually Europe's largest AI seed ever. Nvidia, Bezos, Samsung, Singapore, sovereign wealth fund all contributed. So big money from serious people.
Okay, I'm going to try to ignore the concept that you can have $1 billion seed round, which just sounds ludicrous to me on its face. But talk to me about this kind of we're doing the whole thing wrong. What is his thesis that's kind of a fundamentally different approach than what's going on in the major players today?
His thesis is pretty interesting, but he's basically like real intelligence in the human brain doesn't start with language. Language is like the translation layer of the intelligence that happens in your brain. So all of these, LLMs that we're doing that are built on language aren't starting where the actual intelligence is. The actual intelligence is the world. It's the understanding of physics. It's understanding how the physical world actually works. And so he argues that LLMs are not the future, but world models are the future. So he basically is like, think of it this way: current AI is like a child who can talk brilliantly about bicycles and knows all the words to say about bicycles. He wants to build AI that actually understands things like balance, momentum, gravity, and like the physics of how a bicycle works. And that's the kind of understanding that you need physically in your body to be able to actually ride one.
Okay, I like that. I mean, it's kind of intuitive. It makes sense. And I joked about $1 billion seed round, but compared to what OpenAI and Anthropic are spending, it is a rounding error. So is that enough money?
Well, that is the tension. $1 billion in this day and age is like billion is like the new $100 or something in AI land. So OpenAI, just raised 110 billion. I think we just talked about that last week. Anthropic's raised over 15 billion. AMI's billion it's a statement, but it's a fraction compared to the sort of annual spend of the rest of the crowd. He doesn't have a product yet, doesn't have a demo, doesn't have a timeline. He's a proven critic, and he's been telling people, anyone who's going to be listening, that LLMs are just not a path to human level intelligence. But criticizing something is a lot easier than actually shipping a product. So he's got to like do that next step, ship a product.
All right, we're waiting for him to ship a product. What do we make of all this? I mean, like, are LLMs out? Are world models in? Is this going to be the future? Like, where are we at?
I think the CEO of a world model company literally just said that world model companies are hype, which is true. Like he said, my prediction is that world models will be the next buzzword. In 6 months, every company is going to call itself a world model to raise funding. So I think it could possibly be, that it's the new hypey buzzword that everybody gets on board with. But it is sort of an interesting and, like you said, somewhat intuitive move if he can actually ship a good product. So.
All right. Well, I'll be waiting for the product. We've heard about world models before. I know Fei Li, another of the world famous AI researchers, is betting big on world models. And $1 billion isn't enough for scaling, but it's enough to ship hopefully an interesting demo. So I'll be excited to see that. And in the meantime, I think I don't. We're going to come to this phrase again. Both can be true. Like LLMs can be incredibly useful and not the path to human or superhuman level intelligence. But I'm pretty happy playing with my LLMs right now. I think there's a lot of benefit to those. So hopefully we can have a bit of both.
Agreed.
Let's take a real quick hit here on an AI security uh, story that deserves a little bit of attention here. Anthropic partnered with Mozilla and pointed Claude code just in every story this week. They pointed Claude at Firefox's C++ code base. In over 2 weeks, it found 22 real vulnerabilities, 14 of them high severity, and all of them fixed and shipped in Firefox 148 to millions of users, hundreds of millions.
This is amazing. First of all, because I didn't know anybody still uses Firefox, so that was new learning. But tell us about what actually happened. How did it find the first bug here,
It
or how
found the
fast
first
did it find it?
It found it in 20 minutes, right? So first bug was a memory safety flaw in the JavaScript engine, the kind of thing that could let an attacker take over your browser, and it found it in 20 minutes. They scanned nearly 6,000 C++ files, not lines, but files, and submitted 112 reports. And here's the number that puts it in perspective. Those 14 high-severity bugs represented almost one-fifth of all high-severity Firefox vulnerabilities remediated in 2025. So Mozilla was so impressed, they adopted Claude internally and found 90 more bugs using the same approach.
Wow. So basically, it's like now this is a race between who can find the bugs faster, Claude or the attackers that are probably also using Claude.
Yeah, and Anthropic was honest about that. They spent $4,000 in API credits trying to turn their findings into working exploits, succeeded in only 2 cases, and only with security features stripped. So right now, AI is much better at finding vulnerabilities than weaponizing them. But Anthropic calls that a window. And they said, and this is a direct quote, the window is unlikely to last very long.
Yeah, so the defender's advantage is it's real, but it's also,
It's a
closing.
bit of an arms race, and both
Yeah,
sides can use this thing. So don't count on that one lasting forever.
that's right. So if your company has not run an AI augmented security audit, you're already behind the people who are probably trying to break in right now. So go out
Yeah,
and do
probably
it.
somebody has. It just may not
Yeah.
have been you. So you
Yes.
should be there too.
That's right. All right. Well, we haven't talked about a healthcare story in a while, but we have two good announcements this week that are interesting to put together. So this last week, both Microsoft and Amazon launched consumer health AI products. Same week, different approaches.
All right, hit me up first. Microsoft, let's go. Microsoft been here before in this story this week. I love it. What do they do in health?
So they launched Copilot Health, which is a dedicated health section inside Copilot that connects your wearable data to over 50 devices, health records from 50,000 plus US hospitals, your lab results, and it's all in one AI interface. It sort of interprets and synthesizes your health data, but it will not diagnose, prescribe, or anything like that. It directs you to a doctor when you need to see a doctor.
All right, and Amazon.
Amazon expanded their health AI from one medical app to Amazon.com. So it's now actually in the main Amazon mobile app.
No.
It's rolling out to all US customers, and theirs is agentic. It doesn't just interpret data, it can actually book appointments, manage your prescriptions, connect you to medical providers for video or in person visits. And they bundled it into Prime. So now this is an Amazon Prime feature. You get up to 5 free telehealth consultations, which is worth like $145 or something like that.
All right, I take it some free health consultations. This is interesting. Microsoft is kind of consolidating and helping you understand your data, and Amazon is taking action, though seemingly kind of more administrative type actions than like giving you diagnoses on your things. And all announced the same week. It's like everybody's just bundling up all the announcements at the same time.
I know same week, and both are sort of deliberately constrained, so neither one's diagnosing that both of them sort of defer to
Mm.
providers. That's, I think, a responsible entry point, but the distribution play, I think, is important to think about here. So Microsoft has, Office 365 users, we just mentioned before, 90% of the Fortune 500 companies, but Amazon has Prime members. So they have a lot of, consumers on their Prime memberships. Both are embedding health AI inside products that people are already using daily, which I think is really smart. So standalone health AI apps are now competing against these big behemoth apps that everybody's opening up every day. So
Yeah. Yeah,
pretty
it'll be interesting to see. I love both angles. I do think maybe Amazon's Prime members are a little more health mindset than your work email. Maybe not be the place you're going for your health advice.
and also you don't want to like put all of your health data into your work stuff.
Yeah, you don't want that in there.
Yeah.
All right, last story of the week, and this one ties the Convergence thread together. This past week, both ChatGPT and Claude shipped interactive visuals. ChatGPT launched 70 plus curated math and science visualizations, Pythagorean theorem, compound interest, kinetic energy, where you can kind of drag sliders and watch formulas update in real time. Claude launched open ended interactive visualizations, charts, diagrams, idea maps generated on the fly for any topic using HTML and SVG.
All right. So ChatGPT went with curated and polished, and Claude went with open ended and flexible.
That's right. Different philosophies, but same direction. And Google Gemini shipped interactive diagrams back in November. 3 companies, the same basic capability within months, some of them within days or even hours of each other. This intelligence convergence converged across models. And now the features are converging too. They seem to be just launching the same stuff.
Yeah, and the interesting shift is that Claude decides on its own when a visual would be more helpful than text, which I think is interesting. The model is making presentation decisions, not just content decisions.
Yeah, and when I saw these, the first thing that popped to my mind was like teaching my kids math and science concepts, or even like compound interest. And like, I've
Yeah,
built some of these interactive visualizations in Excel to like show you how powerful things are. And just to be able to have those things explained, I think one of the examples was like load forces in a building for Claude. Like, just awesome, and so useful as a parent.
yeah, very cool. Well, when every AI ships the same capabilities in the same week, the question becomes, what's the differentiator? So the answer is really shifting from what the model knows to how it communicates, right, and
Or
how it's useful to humans. So
or what data and context it has access to give you better answers.
that's right. That's right.
All right, well, that is the show for this week. If you know someone who needs the Amazon code-free story, and honestly, every CETO does need to know that story, feel free to send them this episode. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Find all the links at whattheai.fm. And Annie, I will see you next week.
See you next week.